In late 1989, something started happening in the night skies over Belgium. At first, it sounded familiar. Strange lights, unusual shapes, people looking up and describing what they could not explain. But this was not a single night. It became a wave, a long series of reports that stretched across months into 1990, involving civilians, police officers, and eventually the Belgian Air Force. This period is often called the Belgian Wave, and it remains one of the most important modern UAP cases for a simple reason. It was not just rumor. It created official attention. It created records. And at least once, it triggered an attempt to intercept an unknown target. The earliest reports in the fall of 1989 described something large and unusual. Witnesses often used the same word: triangle, a dark triangular shape, sometimes with lights at the corners, sometimes with a light in the center. Many witnesses described slow movement, almost like a controlled drift. Others described moments of sudden acceleration, a strange combination, slow and deliberate, then suddenly fast. This pattern is what makes the case difficult, because a conventional aircraft is either clearly slow or clearly fast. A helicopter can move slowly, but it makes noise and has recognizable lighting patterns. A jet can move fast, but it cannot quietly hover or crawl across the sky without obvious sound and flight behavior. So the Belgian reports began to stand out, not because they proved a single explanation, but because they repeated the same strange features: a large triangular shape, unusual lights, low speed at times, sudden movement at other times, and in many reports, an eerie silence. Now, Belgium is a small country. A wave of sightings there does not remain isolated for long. Local reports become national conversation. And once the public begins looking upward with a specific idea in mind, reports can multiply. This is an important point. A wave can be part reality and part attention. More eyes on the sky means more sightings. Some of them will be misidentifications. Some will be ordinary aircraft seen under unusual conditions. So any honest investigation has to accept that the Belgian wave likely contains a mix. But within that mix, certain reports became especially influential. One of the biggest reasons is that police officers also reported sightings. Police reports carry a different weight than casual storytelling, not because police cannot be mistaken, but because they're trained to report clearly and because they often record time, location, and conditions. Multiple police witnesses described similar triangular objects, often low in the sky, with lights that did not match normal aircraft patterns. These reports were not filed as entertainment. They were filed as unusual incidents. Now, this is where a key organization enters the story. Belgium has a group called the Belgian UFO Society, often known by its French acronym, SOBEPS. They collected witness testimony and attempted to document the wave. Their work is frequently referenced when people discuss the Belgian case. Supporters say it provides structure and documentation. Skeptics say it risks shaping the narrative. Both points matter. Anytime an organized group collects reports, there's a risk of selection bias. Dramatic reports are remembered and emphasized. Mundane explanations are ignored. So again, discipline is required. But even with discipline, the wave did not remain purely civilian. In March 1990, the story reached its most dramatic moment, an event often described as the night the Belgian Air Force scrambled jets. The details vary by source, but the core claim is that unknown targets were detected and fighter aircraft were launched to investigate. The aircraft involved were F-16s. This matters because F-16s are not ceremonial. They are fast, capable interceptors. When they launch, the goal is to identify a potential threat. During the intercept, radar reportedly registered unusual behavior. At moments, targets appeared. At moments, they vanished. There were reports of rapid changes in speed and altitude, numbers that, if taken literally, would exceed what conventional aircraft can do. Now, this is the part where the case becomes both famous and controversial, because radar data is powerful, but it is also complex. Radar does not see objects the way human eyes do. It interprets reflections. It can be influenced by atmospheric conditions, clutter, and the way signals bounce. Targets can be real. Targets can also be artifacts. Even military radar systems can produce confusing results, especially in unusual conditions. So skeptics argue the Intercept radar data may not represent a craft making impossible maneuvers. It could represent tracking instability, lock switching, ghost returns, misinterpreted velocities. And that argument is not weak. It is a serious possibility. But believers point out something else. The Belgian Wave is not just radar. It is also a long pattern of eyewitness reports over months. And at least some reports include multiple witnesses observing the same thing at the same time. So once again, we are in the classic UAP dilemma. The radar data is complicated and open to interpretation. The witness data is vivid but imperfect. Together, they create a story that is hard to close. Now, let's step back and ask the most important question. What would ordinary explanations look like here? One ordinary explanation is misidentification of aircraft. At night, aircraft can appear triangular if lights are arranged in a way that suggests a shape. If you see three lights and your brain connects them, you can see a triangle even if there is no solid craft. This is plausible, especially if people are already primed to expect triangles. Another ordinary explanation is helicopters. Helicopters can move slowly and hover, but helicopters are loud and usually recognizable, and a wave across months would likely have some identifiable sources if helicopters were the main cause. Another explanation is astronomical misidentification. Bright stars, planets, and atmospheric effects can create strange impressions, but they do not explain reports of low, structured objects moving across the sky. Then there is a major candidate, stealth aircraft. In the late 1980s and early 1990s, stealth aircraft were a topic of increasing public awareness. And the idea of a triangular craft fits the popular imagination of stealth technology. A stealth aircraft could appear dark, could be difficult to detect, and could be mistaken for something exotic. But stealth aircraft still follow normal flight behavior. They cannot hover silently at low altitude without being heard. And they would be unlikely to operate repeatedly over Belgium in a way that triggers public waves of sightings, unless there was a known training or operational reason. So again, ordinary explanations can cover parts of the story, but may struggle to cover all of it. Now, what makes the Belgian Wave so important is not that it proves a single answer. It is that it represents a modern pattern, a society with cameras, organized reporting, and an Air Force capable of response. This is not a medieval story. This is not a legend from centuries ago. It is modern, which means the expectations are different. People expect documentation. They expect radar logs. They expect closure. And yet, the case never closed cleanly. Instead, the Belgian authorities engaged with the topic in an unusually open way. At various points, officials acknowledged that reports were being taken seriously. They did not confirm aliens. They did not confirm an extraordinary craft. But they did not dismiss everything as nonsense either. That balanced posture gave the wave credibility in the public mind. Now, the most honest way to treat the Belgian Wave is to treat it as a file with layers. Layer 1, a genuine increase in sightings, driven partly by attention and partly by unknown events. Layer 2, a set of repeated descriptions, triangles, lights, slow movement, that suggests some witnesses were reacting to the same kind of stimulus. Layer 3. At least one military response event that shows the subject reached a security threshold. And Layer 4. Unresolved ambiguity. Because neither civilian testimony nor radar data, as publicly available, provides a single definitive answer. This is why the Belgian Wave remains a cornerstone case for UAP discussions. It shows how a modern country can experience a prolonged wave, treat it seriously, and still end without a clear public conclusion. Now, here is the deeper question the Belgian Wave raises. If a wave can last months and involve police reports and still remain unresolved, what is the real boundary between misidentification and unknown? Because in a wave, both exist, and the hardest task is separation. What sightings are simply aircraft viewed under confusing conditions? What sightings are social contagion, people repeating a story? And what sightings remain stubbornly unexplained even after serious analysis? The Belgian Wave forces you to accept that a single label may not fit. It may not be one thing. It may be a mixture of ordinary stimuli and a smaller number of truly unresolved incidents. That is not satisfying, but it is realistic. So the responsible conclusion is not a dramatic claim. It is a careful one. In 1989 and 1990, Belgium experienced a sustained wave of UAP reports, many describing triangular objects with unusual light patterns and movement. Some reports came from police officers and multiple witnesses. The wave became significant enough to draw the attention of authorities and to trigger at least one military intercept attempt. The available public information does not resolve the wave into one clear explanation. Some elements may be explained by misidentification and environmental factors. Other elements remain disputed and open due to the limits of data and the complexity of interpreting radar and human observation. And that is why the Belgian Wave still matters. Because it is not a story about believing. It is a story about evidence that does not fully agree with itself. A long pattern, a serious response, and a mystery that refuses to be reduced to one simple answer. The sky over Belgium did not offer a clean conclusion. It offered a question. And for many, that question has never gone away. What exactly was moving through those nights?